Well, hello there, I'm Detroit. You all know I like to draw, so how about an art event competition with one prompt a day where you get to meet a fantastic community of talented artists? ChromaCorps is an event held by Cynics Designs. The 6th year just ended and I participated for the first time. And I never thought it would be this fun, but boy do I have things to say about it. If you, the viewer, participated in Chroma yourself, sorry, I'll be mostly talking about my own drawings and my own experience. And do skip ahead if you want, there are timestamps in the bar below. For the others, let's start at the beginning. So basically, a few months ago I discovered this guy who makes drawing videos on YouTube. His name is Naka, and his videos are great. They are beautiful and inspiring. I mentioned their stuff in a couple drawing process videos in the past. About 2 months ago, give or take some change depending on when this comes out, he posted a video talking about some event called ChromaCorps. It's only when I decided to join that I realized it was held and organized by Cynics, a guy whose videos I devoured a couple years ago, but I had stopped watching eventually. But anyway, I joined, and that's done by getting on a Discord server and proposing a character design to the masses. And then, bang, first hit straight into my face. What the hell is this crazy place with incredible artists everywhere? I'm gonna sprinkle some of the people's art I really enjoyed, just to show you the level that's out there. Like this. I'll be frank, that first contact with ChromaCorps was a bit intimidating. I know I have good ideas, but I'm not that good at executing on my ideas when it comes to art. I'm mid. And so at some point I posted a whip, a work in progress, of this guy named Skin that I sketched right before going to sleep the previous night. The next day I tuned into Cynics' Twitch channel and oh, here comes my entry. Let's hear what he has to say.
Troy, look at this little guy. It's kind of charming. Don't know what to do about the torso, leg length, a hot dog holding hand. I mean, it's kind of working. I don't know how it would look standing up. I guess that would probably be your issue. But this is fun. I'm enjoying this, even though it's a nightmare. Being stretched over each other. That's kind of weird. But but it looks so happy and charming. You're almost in Jonan Vasquez, like that level of territory where it's like creepy stuff, but like fun and charming. And I like that.
Okay, I did alright. Well, only one way to go. Let's flesh out this character some more. Also, while I'm at it, let's steal some more cool art pieces from the various artists in the server. By this point, I'm still kinda intimidated, so I pop into the server a couple times a day only. Like, maybe I pop into a voice channel once, I think, to see what the people streaming their own Photoshop or Clip Studio screens are working on. But soon, I have a first render for Skin, and I want to see what Cynics and the Twitch people think about it.
Skin again, showing off the multiple skinned things that makes them Skin. It's still kind of an amusing character. It's kind of a tricky background idea. I'm not sure what to do about that.
Okay, well, not as good as a response as the last time. Maybe this thing is not for me after all. But wait, what is that in chat?
Hear me out, Skin. I mean, I mentioned in the line art, it's a fun idea. I kind of feel like they need to find a presentation that matches the style of the drawing, and I don't know if this is it. Because I think presentation goes a long way for this one specifically.
Now that I can work with. I need to find a way to tie in the presentation. Honestly, if I didn't have that advice, I was gonna leave it as is and probably check in on ChromaCorps the first few days and then move on with my life. But just because of this moment on Twitch, I persevered. I ended up drawing a proper character sheet, doing some hand lettering to give more feeling to the context for Skin, a color palette, just stuff I have seen people do around the server. And wouldn't you know it, it kinda worked.
Detroit. Skin is ready. Skin will enlist. Okay. Great. We've got a full layout for Skin. Ooh, you know what? You've figured out some clever ways to make your aesthetic work in the background. This is such a big improvement, I'm gonna be honest. I think this, I was like, Skeen was probably gonna miss out on standouts with the, you know, just because the render of it was a little wonky. I think this image, definitely I gotta have Skeen in standouts. I think this is such a strong point of view for the background and everything, for the layout. We've made it, Skeen. We've done it, Skeen.
Did I become one of the racers selected for the competition? Hell no, I'm far from that level, but I made standouts. Skeen became part of a some 100 cadets list of fun designs that are worth mentioning, basically. Oh yeah, did I not mention how the whole thing works? In ChromaCorps this year, only 50 people were selected to actually participate. Because the theme is a racing Grand Prix, these are the racers. They are judged daily on their art, have a point system, can be eliminated, etc. But the real winners are the washouts. People like me who weren't selected and can thus participate without care or concern or stress. The racers are racing for 30 days, with a new prompt each day given by a cool professional artist. 30 days of prompts, and I did all of them. You would think my YouTubing endeavor would have ingrained some reflex into me, but it didn't. You would think by now I would have 30 potential drawing videos. I don't. I forgot to record my screen 30 times. And so instead of good footage, I'll be showing all the layers for each artwork I made, which could be considered a poor man's time-lapse. I wanna cry. Anyway, I'm talking too much and too slow. It's time to start the race. The first prompt was to draw fan art of another cadet entry. I chose to go with Spooky's Soleil because I like the style. I thought it was cool. But that day I went to do a voice chat and a few people were streaming their art, so I didn't want to be just sitting there. So I also drew Fenton's Nemri because they're cute. Mostly I found it fun to chat with people in real time. It's a great opportunity you don't want to miss to socialize and make friends. Also a big thanks to Yev who actually drew a fan art of Skeen. This is terrifying and I love it. The second day I turned in on Discord to see what the prompt was before going to work at like 6:30. Oh yeah, because if I want to catch the live Twitch and hear some advice about my art straight from Cynics himself, I had to do that for a whole month. Anyway, the second prompt was about a planet that is a tree called Yggdralius, basically. I didn't have much time to draw that day. I ended up doodling this on iPad. Honestly, a quick thing, but wouldn't you know it, the next day I woke up with a Discord ping about my drawing not being quite standout level, but having an honorable mention. Oh, we're suddenly discovering new mechanics for this thing every day. So, you have the racers, and below them are the washout standouts, and below is the honorable mentions. And I managed to get a mention on day 2. And this is how you get hooked. This is the gamification style of reward that makes me want to do it for 30 days straight. That and the many awesome pieces by really talented artists I didn't think were even possible to be drawn, inspiring me for the future and joining my ref folder. I'm not gonna lie, it also reminded me I was shit at environments. I only got a mention because of a fluke, let's be honest. The next day was Mushroom Frog, for which I drew these. At that point I really wanted to draw the assignment seriously with a new style each day, but also to make a second entry with the first thing that came to mind, in the form of a 10-minute sketch. I didn't necessarily manage to do either of these things for 30 days. That's hard work, man, I just couldn't. When I thought about making this video, I didn't want to go into details for every assignment, but considering I spend between 1 and 6 hours every day on these, you can sit your butt down and listen, even if it's for a long video. In any case, for day 4, I definitely will get into details. An industrial design for a resource mining ship, which is an idea by Brian Sum. Hell yeah, now we're talking. I like industrial stuff. It's the occasion to add tiny patterns and complex details. And how about I make it with ink? That day, I hopped into a voice chat, turned my camera on, and got to drawing. A rotring isograph, no sketch, no stress, pure freehand fun while I chatted. You see, all of these hundreds of cool artists in ChromaCorps are really good at rendering and stuff. But they have one fatal weakness: industrial design. Machinery, pipes and wires and plates and gears in perspective. And it paid out. I actually made standouts with this design. Like, imagine it. Top 10, racers not included, among hundreds of artists. I'm cracked, guys, but only at this very specific kind of thing. I also made Skin a Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann drill meg for fun. Assignment 5 was a character design, a mad insect scientist, which is not my forte. I basically made this, but I don't have much to say about it. Yeah, let's not look at it too much, so let's show some other people's very cool art, like these. Assignment 6 was fun, the Savory Valley environment. I tried to take on the style of Macbeth, of old-timey cartoon rendering, but that was too hard to do in only one day. Or more like 4 hours to be exact. So it's kinda weird looking, especially from afar, because the values are all over the place. But it was really fun to make, and I also learned a lot while doing this. And as before, I also made this 10-minute sketch, which was a good warm-up, and looks a lot more similar to what other artists have been making. All in all, it was a fun day, but I couldn't keep my ambitions in check. As much as I love putting dozens of details in a single drawing, it's unrealistic to make it and make it well in a single day. Talking about big ambitions, for assignment 7, which was Unexpected Corgi, I did 3 pieces. Well, 4 actually. The first idea that came to mind was a circus with the stereotypical comical cannon launcher thing, but with a corgi inside. That was my warm-up. Then I tried a bit of the style of the prompt giver, Lynchen66, with a fuzzy thick paintbrush and made a corgi the high priest of a sacrificial ritual on top of an Aztec pyramid with insane perspective. I didn't like that one very much, it wasn't greatly executed. So you know what I did? I took out my super sculpey medium polymer clay and sculpted a small corgi and put it in unexpected situations, such as in my coffee cup and in toilet paper. And that's a very fun idea, which I straight up stole from Goat, who had been making crazy cool sculptures all along, so thank you Goat. While I'm at it, I'll mention the greatly unexpected submissions from, like, these guys. I also talked about a 4th take on the Unexpected Corgi prompt, and that happened on day 26, a whole 19 days later, when I made this GIF. Can't be more unexpected than that. Keeping the trend of non-drawing execution of prompts, I made a wire sculpture for the 8th day, the Mistletoe Spear. Not gonna lie, I don't know how people manage to have such great inspiration as to make pieces like these. Yeah, this prompt was not my jam. It felt much too restrictive of a prompt. There aren't many fun ways you can take a mistletoe spear, so I went for originality with a twisted wire thingy that I digitally enhanced, and that was definitely a low effort day for sure. Day 9 on the other hand, the glacial restaurant, I felt inspired. I knew everybody would make restaurants made from ice, or put restaurants in cold environments, or restaurants that served ice. So again, instead of using the first idea that comes to mind, instead of using the second idea or even the third, I went with the 4th. What if the restaurant was literally glacial? Like the building, in the shape of the word glacial. I'm making a tower. And because it's already a tower, why not make it my entry for the ChromaCorps tarot card deck? Oh yeah, new mechanic just dropped. Let's talk about the side quests. I told you this was a long video. During the 30 days, there were also additional challenges, impromptu ones created by members of the community. For example, Andre, a previous year competitor, asked us to make an outfit for his goblin character. Apricot Soup and Allium Chocolate, on the other hand, decided to make a community tarot card deck, with each card designed by somebody, usually as part of one assignment. You can see the whole deck here, by the way. It's worth checking out. I'll put a link in the description. Some people even made their assignments a scavenger hunt, like Pinjaman with their puzzles. King W also made a playable trading card game with images of the cadets submitted by the Chroma participants. And then there were the magmas, but we'll get to them in a bit. Assignment 10 was the Spaghetti Yeti, probably one of the prompts I had the least amount of time to complete. I went traditional by using ink and a dip pen, because if I was gonna half-ass something, might as well do it in style and originality. It's just like the mistletoe assignment. Thankfully, other people who are better at drawing humanoid creatures than I am did incredible art pieces. Oh, and after I was done inking and fulfilling my outside world obligations, I also made this cute tiny yarn yeti, just because I had an half hour to kill before going to bed. Prompt 11 was the Oafish ballerina. Prompt 11 kinda pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. Right after the spaghetti yeti, having a second character design was too much. I don't like character designs, and don't talk to me about clothing design and creature design because it's essentially the same thing. It tickles the same part of the brain and it's a part I don't like. Also, what even is the word oafish? Since half the people already drew oarfishes and other kinds of aquatic creatures for this prompt, I had to go the other way. Oarfish is apparently clumsy and big, and the opposite of a ballerina. What is big and definitely not fitting for a ballerina, and also not really a character design? Yes, exactly, you in the back over there, you guessed correctly, weirdly enough. A digger excavator. Heavy construction machinery vehicles are definitely not fit to be ballerinas. So I drew Michelle. This is kind of my fuck you to the entire rest of ChromaCorps since it feels like everybody enjoys drawing characters and hates mechanical designs, whereas I'm the opposite. So all of your small dancers and fish-faced dummies now have to face my beautiful Michelle. And with that, let's move on to the prompt number 12, the Cosmic Carnival. Cosmic Carnival is kinda the opposite of Mistletoe Spear for me, in that it's way too vast and I didn't know what to draw. And add in the lack of time, which is a recurrent theme because of, having a job and all. So yeah, I just drew the curtains of a circus tent opening into what I can only describe as a mess. I didn't sketch for this one, I painted in grayscale and then used graded maps to turn the black and white into wacky colors. And I went so deep it ended up looking like this. In retrospect, I was very much trying to manifest an abstract prompt because I'm not used to drawing figurative stuff like this, one after the other. I'm half an abstract artist after all. Anyway, Cosmic Carnival, not my fave, but that's fine. In keeping with the fair, circus and carnival aesthetic, the next prompt, 13, was to draw a manufacturing unit for robo-clowns. Around the carnival planet you have small clown bots doing the cleaning or whatever. For that one, I warmed up by drawing this fun guy with a great perspective, if I do say so myself. His job is to use his hands as a shovel to eat the garbage from the floor. And the factory where this dude is made is what you're watching. It's one of the rare things I did film during the months of ChromaCorps. It's because at this point I was used to drawing in voice chat while sharing my screen, and I had to use OBS to show the drawing through my webcam, so I recorded the process pretty easily. I'll be honest, I don't really like the robo-clowns for this assignment. But you have to admit that the factory is a banger. It's the combination of strong perspective and complicated ink machines that always works. In fact, it works so well that this drawing made the top 10 among the washout submissions. And if you're following the lingo, that means I got standout, baby. Not a lot of people did assignments using traditional medium, so it's kinda easier to have an impact this way, maybe. And as always, just the ink drawing is a bit rough, so I refined it a bit in Clip Studio, along with a slight coloration, as if I was using Copic markers on my sketch. And now, remember how I said a couple minutes ago that I was pissed because of too many character design prompts? Well, would you look at that? Assignment 14 is a hermetic alchemist. Don't ask me what hermetic means in this context. Honestly, it's so vague. Just know it's something like philosophical. A lot of people drew banger alchemist for this, whereas I, on the other hand, drew Jacques. Jacques is an alchemist in the sense that he mixes potions in glasses and bottles, and he is very prone to talking about deep philosophical stuff. Yeah, I drew an alcoholic like only friends can produce. For this style, I was loosely inspired by the works of Lucat in its roughness. This guy has so many banger artworks, go check it out. Anyway, that was another character design done quickly, allowing us to move on to assignment 15. Halfway there! And finally, after a few days, I finally manifested it. The abstract prompt. Hell yeah! No direction for this one, simply abstract. It was the occasion to have some fun. I probably could have done something a bit cooler using just ink, like use a complicated pattern or something, and I could maybe have made standouts. But we'll never know, because the thing is, I really wanted to use paint. Real paint. I didn't have the opportunity to use them yet because I suck at figurative art. And so this was my one opportunity because it is fun to do abstract stuff with paint. And so I did. I first doodled with ink on cardstock, then I taped part of the page so it wouldn't get painted over, then I went wild. I wish I had done the taping differently because I actually don't like the flow of the white lines at all, but hey, that's alright. I filled parts in with more doodly patterns within afterwards. My goal with this abstract piece was to have a sort of a shockwave forming around the central circle, like a meteor falling down. Did I manage to do that? I don't know, but I added a piece of green paper just cause I found it fun to leave potential for green screening. Day 16 was a good one. The prompt was Divine Predator, which low-key could be my favorite one, because it's constrained enough to give a basis to start with for inspiration, but large enough so that you can do a lot of different stuff with it. As a proof, look at how different these artworks are. People who like to go abstract went a bit abstract. People who want to draw characters can draw characters, etc. And as for me, I decided to revisit the old-timey cartoony style of a Cuphead boss. At first I wanted to draw a cave system with the cave being the predator itself, but I didn't have time to execute on my idea properly. So I drew a multi-legged monster, obviously a face evoking a demon or devil, but with white feathery wings like an angel. And because I was emulating a style very reminiscent of that of Macbeth, and I was listening to the song Alice, I drew a character that is basically Alice but with short hair. I think it's also at this point in ChromaCorps that I started learning a lot of tips from watching other artists draw and implementing them. For example, a non-aster taught me that adding a layer of noise on top of the finished image makes it look more coherent and gives a nice texture. So yeah, I love this prompt. Assignment 17 was a weird one. Maybe it's because I put too much energy into the previous one, but yeah, I wasn't very inspired. The prompt was given into the form of a short prose, which I'll only read once, so pay attention. The stars in their sockets burn strangely. The night is crossed by a cold wind. Some of the racers, or what abstracted forms they may have taken, surround a dying fire of sorts, where their last hope lies smoldering as embers. What will they do now? So, thanks Steven Zapata, but not my jam. Basically, a character sat at night next to a fire. It's already exactly what I drew for Skin for my cadet entry, so I wasn't gonna redraw the same image. So yeah, I decided to draw a very zoomed in close-up of Skin with the reflection in one eye showing them grilling a hot dog. It took like the whole of 15 minutes, I think. Thankfully, Elodin decided to start Magma, which for me would be the first of many. Magma. That's a website allowing people to draw simultaneously on the same canvas, which is incredible if you think about it in terms of technology. 60 people having their own layer and drawing together at the same time. And so I added Skin to this huge bonfire where everybody is having fun and having their own little adventures. That made it so much more fun to do the prompt, and it rekindled my envy to draw for the next day, which was day 18, the Dream Police. Now, I'm very sorry to Jeremy Aninos, but after Divine Predator, this sounds like a pale imitation. And it's yet another character design! I'm shaking my fist in anger right now, by the way. But you know what, I'll be the better person and use this opportunity to learn by trying to actually make a good looking character design sheet. Like the kind I've been seeing and inspired by for 17 days straight. And so I made Dreamer number 1312. No reason for the numbers, obviously, they don't relate to letters or anything. But yeah, I made a whole sheet with text, a title, a close-up of the face, a fully rendered pose, the whole deal. I'm not into the character that much, to be honest. I think it's very bland, but I did learn a lot about how to create a good-looking presentation sheet design. So yeah, at least there is that. And now moving on to assignment 19, which was to create a food, or drink, or consumable item that acts as an energy boost. I think the proper title was Lightning Energy Boost, and a lot of people thought of doing lightning in a bottle type of design. Normally, I would shy away from that because it's way too obvious. But as it turns out, my real life job at the moment is literally to create lightning and set it into stuff to see if they withstand it. So like, I can't not do that, right? So I took a dozen of my most beautiful lightning pictures, that I have 1,000 of, and composited them into a bunch of shelves and drew bottles around each one. Since the lightnings are almost pure white, I only had to roughly detour each bolt and use a lighting layer on top of the drawing to blend the pictures in. Because lightning is very light, the rest of the picture had to be very dark for emphasis, so I went for a dark wood shelf like you would find in a fantasy shop or tavern. I did have to take a lot of shortcuts while dealing with the render because turns out having dozens of colored glass bottles next to one another and a source of light inside each one might be the hardest drawing prompt ever in existence, and I'm not joking. But I think I did a good job with the little time I had that day. Also, as a quick note, the number on the price tag is expressed in volts, and it is literally the voltage that each bolt was produced at. I think that's a neat detail. With the day 20, we are moving on to our second to last environment prompt, meaning the whole theme of the event is once more shifting, finally leaving the Carnival behind to arrive at the inverted ocean. I don't know what to think about that prompt. I think it's kinda simple, not necessarily in a bad way, but it didn't spark a lot of my inspiration. I think I could have benefited for more than a few hours on this one, simply for the ideating process. But after 20 days of constant grind, the fatigue makes itself known, so makes sense. I eventually decided to turn this into a sort of postal card / collage scrapbook illustration of a place called Inverted Ocean. The central piece is a panoramic view of a sunset, or sunrise I guess because it would be inverted, and you can see a big floaty inverted boat and a couple inverted windsurfers. All in all, kinda simple. Holiday vacation vibe. Honestly, that was really low effort. But some other people really did great stuff. Look at all of these. These are so great. Anyway, now we are finally at prompt 21. This is where things start to pick up again for me. We had the 20 days fatigue, but finally we can bring about a new arc that is back to having more fun with the prompt. And that starts with the house elf, or the little helper buddy we're supposed to make for a cadet. But remember Skin, my cadet? That person doesn't have a buddy, because how could they? They still skin for fun. Unless... Okay, hear me out. What if Skin's helper was just a poor guy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time? Introducing Mr. 13, and with him a lot of new lore for my cadet. Yes, Mr. 13 is essentially a flayed corpse. I didn't have time and definitely didn't want to redraw Skin entirely for this prompt, so I simply added 13 to the original Skin drawing. I basically made the same character sheet as before, with tiny bits of lore and telling you that Mr. 13 is Skin's old new friend, and is very silent. As you have guessed, 13 is deceased because Skin stole his skin. His name also may be a reflection of how many victims Skin currently has, as well as the unlucky number 13, and with an added E to mimic Skin's name. I want to mention that I also added one more fun detail, which is the tape. Since then, I've been enamored with the concept of adding tape in my drawings because I find it so fun. Here, the tape serves to ensure Mr. 13 will stay propped up on the rock. Canonically, I like to think that Skin uses tape to hold everything, and if I ever draw more of Skin's lore, I'll add some tape. Wink wink. So yeah, this was a fun prompt. The first one I did that was in continuation of a previous one. But I swear other people did stuff that was less creepy. Like Funky Pepe's Pepito, which I absolutely love with all my heart. Look at this guy, I couldn't not include him in the video. With this renewed interest and the fatigue essentially gone, I went on to prompt 22, the reverse submarine. This is my favorite kind of prompt, an industrial design, or as I like to call it, a bunch of tubes and wires and metal plates. I couldn't pass on this opportunity to use ink on paper, and I made this page. I like it a lot, even though it could have been better. I guess even cynics thought so, because while I got an honorable mention for it, I didn't make standouts, unlike my previous industrial ink designs. But it was fun to make, and not too difficult, so yeah, that's alright, that makes sense. However, on its own, the inking of the submarine is banger footage, and I feel like it deserves a couple more seconds of screen time, which is why I'm dragging this out a tiny bit. What are a couple seconds in a 40-minute video anyway? Now, day 23 is a bit of a weird one, so bear with me. The assignment was to make a movie poster with the theme of Dino Shark. I'm not a seer, but I was pretty sure, and rightfully so, that the idea of a twist on Jaws, or Godzilla, or Jurassic Park would have already been done by more than one person. In fact, all the self-evident movies were a bit of a given. So if I wanted to be original, I had to find a line of thinking nobody else would go to, and I found one. I drew the movie poster for an adult movie from the 80s or something. starring Jolene, which is a shark pun, and Claude Veloce, which is a velociraptor pun. I do a smut movie poster involving a shark and dinosaur, and you can fully blame me for that. But hey, at least nobody else thought of it, and my submission became somewhat remarkable for that kind of lateral thinking, so definitely worth it.
Detroit, what have you done? We simply watch different kinds of movies, don't judge me. Well, that's an unexpected direction. I respect the going in unexpected places.
What's more, I snuck in a hidden skin looking at the scene from the shadow of the door. I'm sure this won't play into future prompts. Oh, and would you look at that? It's a future prompt! Prompt 24 was to make a fashion design, or a costume, inspired by this picture of a plant. Let's be honest, I don't like this plant. I don't like this prompt either, because, again, another character design adjacent prompt, and I'm tired of these. But hey, since we have to design a costume for our cadets, I at least have to draw skin. And since I'm gonna put no effort into the plant-inspired nightgown, I will give skin something else. How about a new layer? By the way, I don't know if you heard, but the adult actress from the last prompt disappeared, which is weird, right? Even her red underwear disappeared. Anyway, moving on. For day 25, the prompt was to make an octopus warrior, and here comes the character design type of prompt again. I put together the idea of a guy with tentacles around his arms, mirroring muscles. I kinda made this a study of shapes because I definitely felt the fatigue of always having the same kind of prompt. I was also temporarily tired of skin, so I simply added a bit of flayed tentacle in the corner, just as a potential future idea. But hey, at least at this point I did remember the time-lapse feature in Clip Studio and made sure it was on for the rest of my life. Also, look at all this better artist work. Day 26 brought with it the dawn of the last track, Origami City. Now, that's a cool idea for an environment, a city made from folded paper. Some people took it really far and even made up a whole lore about 2D versus 3D people. Really fun to watch. Like, look at this. As for me, I took the time I had to study the style of Sabi, which looks very simple but is in fact a whole thing and much harder to cleanly replicate than I thought, at least for a one-day assignment. So I made a pop-up book with colorful shapes and a very textured digital painting set. Very fun to make, and I feel like it opened a bunch of doors I can maybe explore more in the future. This one gets a solid mid rating from me. Not the best result, but great potential. Also a fun prompt idea. Assignment 27 was to make an illustration depicting the great crash that happens in Origami City where the racers have an accident. Remember the racing part of ChromaCorps? Yeah, I too kinda forgot, so it was the right time for a reminder. In fact, I think this is one of the best prompts over the whole 30 days. Because it's fun to imagine a crash, and I got to see a lot of people going wild with effects and showcasing their ability to draw explosions and stuff. I also got to participate in the magma drawing, where everything explodes and Skin ends up stealing somebody's arm in a tree. But yeah, for the prompt itself, I had fun with the no-line art perspective scene. Because we just went from a water-based environment into a paper city, I thought of wet paper, and I wanted to depict a parade of the inverted submarines leaking over the city and tearing a hole in the street as the racers approached. It's not the great crash per se, but it leads to it. Fun fact, the alpha channel for this drawing is such that the hole is actually transparent. It really is a hole in the PNG file. We are now nearing the end, and assignment 28 is a prompt like we've never seen before. It's a character design. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually original, and it's a sound-based prompt. What you're hearing behind my voice right now is the music by Radical Face titled What Have I Done? Unlike the people influenced by the name, probably, I found this music to be very hopeful, with a lot of repeating melancholic parts. I find it strangely comforting. The way I imagined it during my very first listen while I was sketching, I had the feeling of maybe diving into dark caves and being relieved that the monster lurking there decides you're not a threat and goes back to sleep. And this is what I ended up sketching, which I then redrew with ink and colored digitally. You can see a bunch of things in threes because a lot of the musical motif came in threes, and it starts with an umbrella tree because of the rain and a gentle pond over a floating island of deep cave systems, with hidden but calm lurkers. Anyway, I like this illustration, combining abstract ink and digital colors. Again, I want to emphasize how calming I found the previous prompt as we move into prompt 29, the penultimate one, which is definitely a bit more unsettling. This was a collaborative prompt, as we had to design a new vehicle for somebody else's racer, since their vehicle was destroyed in the previous great crash. For that, I collaborated with Conjit, who is a great artist and a great friend, and who made this buggy for Skin, assembled from many different vehicle parts, which is very fitting. As for me, I had to make Conjit's character, Urapan, a vehicle. Wait, Skin is making Urapan a vehicle. Literally, Skin is literally turning Conjit's character into a car, going from Lamborghini Huracan to Lamborghini Urapan. So yeah, the tape is back, and Urapan is now a full car and Skin is wondering who's gonna drive it, having failed to understand the assignment. That was really fun to make. I also want to mention Ako, who made a car for Skin, and it's the best RV Skin has ever driven. But there is no time to waste on it because finally we are on day 30. 30 days of daily art. Insane! And because this is a race, it is fitting that the last prompt would be the photo finish. And guess what? I do have the time-lapse for that prompt. I learned from my mistakes, and thank the gods, because man do I love this illustration I made. For the photo finish, I wanted Skin to win the race by simply running at unfathomable speeds and overtaking the winning racers at the last second. In fact, you can see here in the back Cynics holding the cup, and Funky Pepe with his motorcycle. In this picture, Skin is running so fast that all the layers are being blown back, kinda like a leaf blower to the face. And in the darkness between the layers of Skin, you can see new hidden faces. The first of which strangely has a hand reaching out and grabbing the red ribbon at the finish line. You can also notice blue tentacles reminiscent of Kemo, the octopus fighter from prompt 25, but maybe it's just a coincidence, surely. In this last prompts, I also went wild with effects, using everything I learned from 30 days of art maxing. Chromatic aberration, directional movement blur, noise, posterization, all of it. I feel like this is a consecration of how much I improved in 30 days, that this final piece from me would stand out, and even be the last standout to be selected for the event, so that if you go to the Discord channel and to the follow along standouts, Skin reaching the line is the last picture. Well, before the 2 bonus magma anyway. And while we're at it, let's look at some of the other standout drawings. Give some love where it's deserved among the washouts. As for the ChromaCorps racers, the ones who were actually competing, the winners ended up being Funky Pepe and Voland, which is entirely deserved. Although, to be fair, any of the racers could have easily won because they all have the skills to do so. So a big congratulations to them both, and you should all go follow their work, obviously. With all of that said, ChromaCorps 2025 ended, and I completed the challenge of drawing a full artwork 30 days in a row. With all the additional funny doodles, magma participations and stuff, you can see it all in this recap sheet. Looking back at it, I'm still amazed that I did all of it myself. Out of these drawings, 3 of them made it into the standouts, and 7 made it into honorable mentions. That's not bad. Honestly, much better than I initially thought I was capable of. It really is because of the constant grind during a whole month. You know, bathing into a constant flow of art, creativity and skill, I honestly think I learned more in 30 days than I have in maybe a year or 2 before that. It also rekindled something in my art that I had left behind at some point, I think. Like something that I can't really put into words, but that I found again because of the great community that I had the chance to join. I know this video has already been dragging on for way too long, because I have so much I could say about everything in here. Like, I'm used to make 6-7 minutes of video of a single drawing process, so imagine 30. And that's without mentioning all the great artists I encountered. A bunch of them I can now legitimately call my friends. Maybe some of them will even agree to participate in a video in the future. Having a community opens the door to so many more art stuff than just me drawing random stuff alone. And it's mostly all thanks to this guy, Cynics. Thank you for hosting such a great event. And a big thanks also to Naka, because his video introduced me to ChromaCorps. A big shout out as well to all those I met during Chroma, whose names are on the screen, racers and washouts alike. the biggest shoutouts to some of my new friends, like Hobgoblin, Grimalicious, Pashel Bell Art, Unknown Aster, Couchmaid, Allium Chocolate, Gold Trash Can, Valmelma, Joas05 and As Art, and so many others that I'm very sorry, but I can't name all of you, but like, you know who you are. Anyway, that was my experience of ChromaCorps 2025. I hope I never have to edit a video like that ever again. Social media, subscribe, bim bam bang, do what you're supposed to. Bye!